Hi, this is Chris Boyer, and this is my THAC experience. I started prepping the night before with a little bit of lighting setup. I was hoping I could get this scene set up so I could just put the mod element in and shoot it right when THAC started the next day. And so I'm setting up the background light. That's the first time I've ever used the floor stand like that. I just screwed this little stand I had to a board and realized I could easily mount lights and just place them on the floor and not worry about them tipping over, which was a first for easy floor lighting without using one of my C-stands, which you can see me moving around in the background. Now I'm attaching another little mini spotlight so that I can add some fill light to the character on the bridge set. Now you can see with full light. And it is the morning. I am looking at the theme and brainstorming and writing. You can see me looking at baby names right now. And I went through a couple, didn't like them, and just had to look through a lot of baby names to find names that I was interested in using. And some more time on the forum, some time writing in my screenwriting program, and some inspiration on Flickr. And I have grabbed my phone once or twice, and I'm trying to get a hold of my voice actors to have them come over to do some voice acting for the project. And I think I got the script written at this point, and my roommate Robert is checking it out, giving me some feedback on it, telling me what works, what didn't work, which was mainly some of the robot dialogue for later on. And now I'm just adding a lot of building details for the background. I'm not satisfied. I think the horizon was too clean before, and so I'm kind of going to town as I'm waiting for voice actors to arrive. And at some point during the day, I got all of my voice sessions in, and after I put the lines into my computer, I decided I needed to redo a couple. So I had one of my actresses come and redo the lines, and she left after that, was going to go catch a bus or something, and my iPod, which my field recorder records directly to my iPod, it completely crashed. It was unresponsive. It didn't matter whether or not I plugged it into the computer, unplugged it. I tried to do hard resets, and nothing made it work. And so I ended up having to borrow an iPod from my roommate, and fortunately she was grabbing coffee before she was going to hit the bus and was able to come back and do the voice acting. You can see my roommate pop in for a second there. And so that whole thing probably took an hour or so extra that I just dealing with that broken iPod, which was kind of unfortunate. And I'm still working on the lighting. It's already 2 o'clock. And I haven't even started animating yet. And my other roommate has come home, and she's going to do the voice of my robot character, because that was the other female role I had for the project. And so I'm showing her the script. We're figuring some stuff out, and I'm sure by now I had recorded it and was on my way. So pretty major setbacks right from the start with recording problems and me just being way too much of a perfectionist on the lighting anyways. I wouldn't call myself a perfectionist, at least not when it comes to the animation, but when it comes to the way my shots are lit, I am pretty focused on getting it right. And I think for some reason I didn't realize that the room light was on a dim setting while I was working on this stuff, because there's actually a little bit of room light on, and my other lights are just so insanely bright that it just didn't even affect me. I'm pretty sure I shot it this way. So still working on this This is the endless thing. Normally, if I was putting this in a regular movie, I would probably spend an entire weekend trying to figure out how to get this set lit correctly. I'm not super happy with the cinematography of it due to some of the building placements and the backgrounds. The way that where the characters appear on the bridge is probably not the ideal screen placement. Otherwise, the shot looks beautiful, but due to time, I didn't really have time to just completely rearrange buildings and structures and reposition my cast on the bridge. And I finally started animating, and it's like, I think the clock says like about 3 o'clock or so, which is ridiculous. Maybe that's like 2:50 probably. And this is the only shot I did on this set, which is 11 seconds long, and it was kind of just a doozy. It was very intimidating, but I figured I'd start off with a hard one because I knew that this set would be the hardest to light, and I knew that the shot itself would be difficult, but I was able to do it. In this time-lapse footage, I've sped up all the portions where I'm sitting on my computer to about 3 times faster than the rest of the time lapse. For the record, I'm taking 1 frame every second on it, so that kind of gives you an idea. Every minute you'll get, like 60 shots, which will equate to about 2 seconds per minute. And so it gets you get a good range of motion in there. Not that this just animation, it's pretty basic, pretty simple. Although I was encountering a problem. Occasionally you'll see me adjusting the mouse, and for some reason Dragon Frame was every once in a while it would just switch, and the exposure correction I would set it to would disappear, and so the screen would be impossibly dark, because I think I'm probably shooting this at like f8 or f11, and I needed a bunch of exposure correction so I could see my preview animation, and it was really difficult to see, and then it would just randomly turn the exposure correction off, and I'd have to go adjust some settings in Dragon Frame to get it back, and it would kind of like mess up my flow. And that shot is a one shot in the can. Now I gotta take my set apart, and the script I have actually had some unplanned sets, so I'm gonna have to actually build a set in a second. But I'm just deconstructing stuff. Probably a little bit slower than I could have, but I don't know. The day was still young. I was still confident that I could make it in time at this point. And you can see I grabbed a beer. I really enjoy having a drink while I build sets. It's not the best thing to have while animating, but I find that it fuels my creative juices for set building, and it doesn't like make me too lethargic. It's the only beer I'll have all day, because otherwise I'd start to get really sleepy, and that would be no good. I'm building a sewer set and just trying to set pipes and things, figure out a way to kind of match the previous set with this, or the upcoming set with this set, I should say. I've selected my lens a little while back, and I pulled the camera up. You couldn't see it in the previous shot because it was so far away. I was using my 105mm lens to capture that city shot, which I believe the longer lens you can use on a wide shot, the better. So it was actually, my camera was positioned out of the doorway of this room, looking into the room to capture a really great city shot. But for this closer shot, I'm going to use my standard 55 macro lens, which I really love. It's just a really basic quality lens for more medium range shots. And I'm building a dirt wall here, actually. It's really difficult to tell because of the perspective, but I just attached that to the set. It doesn't show up much in the lighting, but I kind of had this vision of a cutaway with a tunnel going up through the dirt and then a cement tube surrounding the tunnel, separating it from the dirt outside. And I continue to build the background of the tunnel. I was considering just lighting it with a hollow background and letting it just fade into blackness, but I didn't think that that quite went along with the idea of like a sewer tunnel. I feel like having a backdrop was a better choice from a visual standpoint. And continue on the final touches. And now it's time to kind of figure out how the shot works. So one of my plans was, as the deeper the characters are underground, and they start deep underground, the greener the lighting would be, and as they progress towards the surface, the lighting would become more pink. And so they're kind of in a transitional set between the two layers. So I'm having it green on the bottom with pink on the top, and just a tiny bit of natural light coming down to hit the characters to kind of give your eyes a balance for where what the actual color of things are, just to make the colored lights better. I always feel like if you just have a bunch of colored lights but you have no standard uncolored light basis, it becomes visually confusing and doesn't look as good. But if you've got like faces in normal light, and then you've got like highlights and underlighting in different colors, it can be really creative and look really good. So second shot of the day. I'm pretty far behind, but at this point I still think I can do it. I was really pleased with how this set turned out. I didn't think I could make nice sets under such time constraints, but I feel like I was really happy with the way this one turned out. And it just takes forever. I decided I would save time by having less shots and just have longer takes. So all of my shots are a little bit longer than I normally use, because I feel like the less camera angle changes, the quicker your overall progress is going to be, even though it can be kind of a pain to animate really huge shots. And now I'm going to go for the opening shot and the opening scene, which is another custom set, which this set I'm just trying to create blackness. You can see I threw that blanket over my foam board in the background, and I'm just trying to create a very sparse thing. I just attached the mod element. All I want visible are the characters' faces and maybe upper torsos in the mod element. I don't want anything else visible. No floors, no walls, nothing. Just like a tiny light on the faces. And to do that, I use a 1000-watt light, of course, because nothing says really dimly lit like the biggest light you have in your arsenal. And so I've taken this and I'm just trying to shape the light so that it doesn't hit any of the set elements, and it basically only hits their face and hits the mod element. And by having the light that hits them being really, really bright, that means even though there's other light bouncing around, I'm gonna be able to have a really fast exposures or a really cranked down aperture and make it so that characters aren't as visible. And I'm just taping elements of the set with my gaffer tape so that you can't see it. And I have started animation. In this this whole project, I have been kind of really excessive of my use of gaffer tape. Normally I'm really careful of how quickly I use it, and I'll like be really conscious and try to reuse it all the time, because, you know, a roll of gaffer tape is really expensive, and I just don't like buying more gaffer tape despite how incredibly useful it is. But due to the time constraints, I just kind of went with it and used excessive amounts everywhere. I used it for taping down wires and cords, and the dragon frame remote and covering up light leaks and covering up portions of the set that I didn't want. And it was pretty much my fix-all, do-all thing. And I finally put a hat on. I normally have hats on, although I was just kind of sleepyhead today and mainly needed it to block the light of that 1000-watt Fresnel out of my eyes, which is why it was cocked sideways really severely. And now I'm trying to match the transition between the last set I animated and this set. So I have pulled up the picture of the last set I was doing, and now I've got the lights on again. And this is a ladder up to the next level. And what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to backlight the ladder so that it's clearly visible in otherwise blackness. And this was a still shot because time was getting really tight, and I just didn't think I could have any kind of animation. And I worked a lot on this backlight thing, trying various options, but I never really ran into anything that I was very satisfied with. So probably in a second I ended up turning off this light. And oh, that was that. So this is the sewer set, which is what the characters were headed up towards. Now I've taken my 18mm and attached it. I don't know if I've attached it yet. It's really hard to tell at this speed. But yeah. But I'm trying to get a super wide angle to capture like the entirety of this interior. And there's nothing like capturing an interior with a wide angle lens. Although one of the problems with my lens is its minimum focal distance is 1 foot. And that is really problematic, especially with Legos, because I would love to be able to have them at like 10 inches or 8 inches. But to compensate for that, and because I just don't have time for anything else, and I really wanted the wide angle lens, I ended up capturing stuff at f/16. I was considering f/22, but didn't end up using that just because of the how long the exposures would have to be to capture like that. So I've got a pretty creative wide shot of the two main characters after they've emerged from the deep sewers into these mid-level sewers, and just trying to set up their fill lights, make everything look super good. I'm having a hard time because I can kind of see lighting and the white table background, and I'm not getting enough green in the set, so you can kind of see me messing around with a piece of foam core, which I cut and I put tilted upwards to bounce more green light into the set from beneath. And now I'm just, if you saw that audio signal, that was me adjusting and entering words into the X sheet for Dragon Frame, because I need that so that I can animate successfully. And now I'm just going for it, going for broke. I'm pretty panicked. I'm really tired right now, and I'm just not sure that I can finish the shot, or not the shot, but the film itself. I don't think it's fully dawned on me because I didn't really have time to look at the clock while I was working on that stuff, because I was trying to get stuff done really fast, not focus on the time, focus on the work and doing what I could as quickly as I can. But so they're entering in, and they're going to see the only antagonist enter the frame in this shot. And so I got to animate 3 characters on screen at once, and it's pretty late into the night, which is kind of difficult for me. I'm not the best animator, especially when I'm animating large numbers of characters. And so now I'm going to be setting up the entry of our antagonist, and did her dialogue. Switch out the lens for a more reasonable lens. I'm going to shoot her. I love shooting like medium shots with this 105mm, especially in this thing when I'm going to have it pointed towards the edge of the just having the background compressed with the 105 millimeter is going to be a lot better choice than the 55 millimeter. So I've completely changed the lighting just because with the camera change, it just doesn't do very much. And I lit the set and I just didn't have what it takes to finish the rest of the film. So hopefully in the next week or so, I'll have this film coming out. Bye.